Carenza didn't know the warriors who rode into Thornhaven that night were hunting for a ghost. She didn't know the mark branded into their armor matched the one her mother had traced onto her palm 1,000 times before the fever took her. And she certainly didn't know that 3 whispered words would shatter the life she'd built from nothing and drag her into a war that had been waiting 17 years for her to speak. All she knew was that the herbs weren't going to grind themselves, and old Maven would box her ears if the poultices weren't ready by morning. The healer's cottage sat at the edge of the village, close enough to smell the tannery when the wind shifted wrong, far enough from the tavern to avoid the drunks who sometimes mistook her door for somewhere they belonged. Carenza worked by candlelight, her fingers stained green from yarrow and comfrey, her back aching from hunching over the worn wooden table. She was 17 winters old and had been Maven's apprentice for 5 of them, ever since the old woman found her half-starved and fever-wild in the forest, clutching her dead mother's hand. Maven had never asked questions. In return, Carenza had never offered answers. Some secrets were safer buried. The sound of hoofbeats made her pause, not the lazy clop of a farmer's mare or the hurried trot of a messenger. This was thunder. Organized and relentless, the sound of many horses moving with military precision. Carenza set down her pestle and moved to the window. Torchlight flooded the village square. She counted 12 riders, maybe more, their horses midnight black and massive, bred for war rather than travel. The men themselves were harder to see, wrapped in dark leathers and traveling cloaks, but she caught the glint of weapons at their hips, and the rigid posture of soldiers who expected trouble. The insignia on their armor made her blood freeze, a crescent moon cradling a single flame. She knew that mark, had traced its lines in the dirt as a child while her mother whispered stories about the mountain kingdom, about the wolves who ruled there, about the fire that burned in their veins. The Valdres wolves, she breathed. No one from Valdres had crossed into the borderlands in over a decade. The mountain pack kept to themselves, their alpha rumored to be as cold and unyielding as the peaks he ruled. For them to ride this far south, this openly, something was very wrong. Or very desperate. Carenza should have stepped back from the window, should have snuffed her candle and pretended she'd seen nothing. That was the smart thing, the safe thing, the thing her mother had drilled into her since before she could walk. Stay hidden. Stay small. Never let them see what you are. Instead, she watched as the lead rider dismounted. He was tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of controlled grace that spoke of violence held carefully in check. When he pushed back his hood, the torchlight caught features that seemed carved from stone. A hard jaw, sharp cheekbones, dark hair cropped close at the sides but longer on top. His eyes scanned the square with predatory focus, missing nothing. Those eyes found her window. Carenza jerked back, heart slamming against her ribs. Had he seen her? The candle was still burning. She'd been standing right there like a fool. A knock rattled Maven's front door. For a moment, Carenza couldn't move. Then training took over. She grabbed the pestle, the closest thing to a weapon, and crept toward the entrance. "Healer's cottage is closed until dawn," she called through the wood, keeping her voice steady. "If someone's injured, leave them on the step and I'll open the door." The voice was deep, commanding, the kind that expected obedience without question. "We're not here for healing." Carenza's grip tightened on the pestle. "Then you've got no business with us." A pause, then, quieter, almost amused. "You've got courage, little wolf. I'll give you that." Before she could respond, the door swung inward. Carenza stumbled back, raising the pestle uselessly as the warrior from the square stepped inside. Up close, he was even more imposing, filling the doorway, bringing the smell of pine and wood smoke and something else. Something wild that made her wolf stir for the first time in years. His eyes swept over her, clinical and assessing. They snagged on her wrists, her neck, and the strip of skin visible above her collar. "Where's the healer?" he demanded. "Away. Birthing in the next village." Carenza forced herself to hold his gaze. I'm her apprentice. Whatever you need, we need information. He reached into his cloak and withdrew a folded piece of parchment. When he spread it open, Carenza saw a drawing, detailed and precise. A birthmark. Curved lines forming a crescent moon cradling a single flame, the same symbol on their armor, but organic, natural, the kind of mark someone was born with rather than chose. We're searching for anyone who bears this mark, the warrior said, or anyone who's seen it. The Alpha King offers 1,000 gold pieces for information leading to— My mother had that mark, Carenza whispered. The words escaped before she could stop them, pulled from somewhere deep and instinctive, from the child who'd traced those lines on her mother's shoulder blade and asked what they meant. The warrior went rigid. Behind him, every soldier in earshot turned to stone. The silence was so complete Carenza could hear her own heartbeat, could hear the candle flame guttering in the sudden stillness. The warrior's eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. Say that again. Carenza's instincts screamed at her to run, to lie, to do anything except stand here beneath this stranger's burning gaze and repeat the words that had just condemned her. But it was too late for that. My mother, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She had that mark. On her left shoulder blade. She said it was a birthright. The warrior moved so fast Carenza didn't have time to flinch. One moment he was an arm's length away. The next his hand was gripping her chin, tilting her face toward the candlelight. His touch was firm but not cruel, his calloused fingers surprisingly warm against her skin. Your mother's name, he demanded. Tell me her name. Lysara. The name felt strange on her tongue, sacred almost, a word she hadn't spoken aloud since the burial. Lysara of the Western Hollows. Something fractured behind the warrior's eyes. His grip loosened, and for one unguarded moment she saw it. Shock, disbelief, and beneath both, a desperate, aching hope that made him look almost human. Commander Varen. Another soldier appeared in the doorway, tension radiating from every line of his body. What's happening? The men are— Kale. The warrior, Varen, didn't look away from Carenza. Send word to the king. Tell him we found her. Found who? Varen released Carenza's chin and stepped back, composing himself with visible effort. Lysara's daughter. The soldier, Kale, sucked in a sharp breath. That's impossible. Lysara died 17 years ago. The entire bloodline was— Apparently not. Varen's gaze swept over Carenza again, but differently now, like he was seeing her for the first time. Look at her eyes, Kale. Tell me those aren't Lysara's eyes. Carenza's stomach dropped. How do you know my mother's eyes? Because every wolf in Valdris knows them. Varen's voice was rough. Lysara wasn't just some woman from the Western Hollows. Little Wolf. She was the last daughter of the Luna line, the king's betrothed. And when she vanished the night before their bonding ceremony, she took the only hope of breaking the curse with her. The room tilted. Carenza reached for the table, steadying herself. You're lying. I have no reason to lie to you. My mother was a healer, a refugee. She fled the northern wars and— She fled because she was hunted. Varen's jaw tightened. The Luna bloodline carries a gift, one that certain packs would kill to possess or destroy. Lysara ran to protect herself. And apparently, his eyes dropped to Carenza's shoulder. To protect you. Carenza's hand flew to her left shoulder blade, pressing against the fabric of her dress. Against the mark she'd hidden her entire life, the one her mother had made her swear never to reveal. They'll come for you if they know. Promise me, little one. Promise me you'll stay hidden. Show me. Varen said quietly. No, I'm not asking to hurt you. I'm asking because if you carry the mark, you're the answer to 17 years of searching. The key to saving my people from a curse that's been slowly killing us. And if I don't have it? Then I apologize for the intrusion and we ride on. He held her gaze. But you do have it. I can see it in your face. You've been hiding your whole life, haven't you? Always feeling different. Always knowing you didn't belong here. Always. Stop. Karensa's voice cracked. Just stop. Varen fell silent. The cottage felt too small. The walls pressing in. The air thick with secrets she'd spent 17 years burying. Her mother's whispered warnings. The strange dreams that had plagued her since childhood. The way her wolf had always felt muted, caged, like it was waiting for something she couldn't name. If I show you, she said slowly, what happens to me? You come with us to Valdris. You meet the king. And if the mark is true, you'll have a choice to make about whether to help us. And if I refuse? Something flickered across Varen's face. Then you refuse. I won't drag you to the mountains in chains. But Karensa. He used her name for the first time, and the sound of it in his voice made her wolf lift its head. Your mother didn't run to protect herself. She ran to protect the bloodline. To protect you. If she knew her people were dying, do you really think she'd want you to turn away? The words struck deep. Finding wounds Karensa had thought scarred over. She thought of her mother's final days, the fever burning through her, the way she'd gripped Karensa's hand and whispered apologies for things that made no sense. I'm sorry I couldn't take you home. I'm sorry I couldn't give you the life you deserved. Find them someday, little one. When it's safe. Find them and tell them Lysara never stopped loving them. Karensa turned around. With trembling fingers, she unlaced the back of her dress just enough to bare her left shoulder blade. Behind her, Varen inhaled sharply. It's true, Kale breathed from the doorway. Luna's mercy, it's actually true. The mark burned against Karensa's skin like it knew it had finally been seen. And somewhere deep inside her, the wolf she'd spent her whole life caging began to howl. They rode before dawn. Karensa had 2 hours to pack her life into a saddlebag. Her mother's comb, a book of pressed herbs, the worn blanket that still smelled faintly of home. Maven would return to find only a note and a purse of gold coins Varen had pressed into Karensa's hands over her protests. For the healer. For taking care of what we lost. The journey north took 4 days. Varen kept her close, always within arm's reach. Though whether for protection or surveillance, Karensa couldn't tell. He spoke little, but she caught him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking, his expression unreadable. The other soldiers treated her with cautious reverence, stepping aside when she passed, lowering their eyes when she caught them staring. It made her skin crawl. They think you're sacred, Kale explained on the 3rd night when they camped at the base of the mountains. He was younger than Varen, with copper-streaked hair and an easier smile. The Luna bloodline hasn't produced an heir in 2 generations. Most of us thought the line was extinct. I'm not sacred. I'm a healer's apprentice who's good at grinding herbs. Kale's smile flickered. You might want to stop saying that before we reach the castle. The court has certain expectations. The court can choke on their expectations. He laughed, surprised and genuine. Lysara's daughter indeed. The mountains rose around them like sleeping giants, their peaks crowned with snow that glowed pink in the fading light. Karensa had never seen anything so beautiful or so terrifying. On the 4th morning, they crested a ridge, and Valdris spread before her. The city was carved into the mountain itself, tiers of dark stone rising toward a castle that seemed to grow from the peak like a natural formation. Waterfalls cascaded down cliff faces, catching rainbows in their mist. Smoke rose from 1,000 chimneys, and even from this distance, Karensa could see people moving through the streets, living their lives in this impossible vertical kingdom. Home, Varen said beside her. It was the most emotion she'd heard in his voice since the cottage. It's beautiful. It's dying. He nudged his horse forward. Come. The king is waiting. The ride down into the city took another hour. People stopped to stare as they passed, whispers spreading like wildfire. The commander returns. Who is that girl? Did you see her eyes? She looks like... Karensa kept her gaze forward, her spine straight, refusing to shrink under the scrutiny. The castle gates opened to receive them, and she entered a world of polished stone, flickering torches, and tapestries depicting wolves running beneath crescent moons. Servants appeared to take the horses. A woman in gray robes approached with a bow. "The king has requested an immediate audience," she said, her eyes curious but carefully neutral. "If you'll follow me." Carenza glanced at Varen. He nodded once, something almost like reassurance in his expression. "I'll be right behind you." She followed the servant into the heart of the mountain, and with every step, she felt her old life falling away like dead leaves, making room for something new, something terrifying, something that had been waiting for her since the moment she was born. The throne room was not what Carenza expected. She'd imagined cold stone and harsh judgment, a king on a distant dais looking down at her like she was something to be examined and discarded. Instead, she found warmth. A fire roared in a massive hearth. Cushioned benches lined the walls, and the man who rose from the throne as she entered looked less like a king and more like someone who hadn't slept in years. He was younger than she'd imagined, perhaps 30 winters, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and eyes the color of slate beneath thunderclouds. Handsome in a haunted way, all sharp edges and shadows. But it was the way he moved that caught her attention, careful, deliberate, like every step cost him something. "Leave us," he said. The command was soft, but every guard and servant in the room obeyed instantly. Only Varen remained, stationing himself by the door. The king descended the steps from his throne, and Carenza forced herself to hold her ground as he approached. Up close, she could see the lines of exhaustion carved into his face, the slight tremor in his hands, the way his breathing seemed labored despite the short distance. He stopped an arm's length away, studying her with an intensity that made her wolf pace restlessly. "You have her eyes," he said finally. "Lysara's eyes. I'd know them anywhere." "So I've been told?" The corner of his mouth twitched. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be? Most people are." He circled her slowly, and she felt his gaze like a physical weight. "The mark. May I see it?" Carenza hesitated. Bearing herself to Varen in the cottage had been necessary, survival instinct overriding modesty. But this felt different. More intimate somehow. "I won't touch you," the king added quietly. "Not without permission." Something about the way he said it, not a concession but a genuine promise, made her turn. She heard his sharp intake of breath when he saw it. "Identical," he murmured. "The exact same mark Lysara bore." He moved around to face her again, and this time there was something raw in his expression. "Do you know what this mark means?" Varen said something about a curse, a dying kingdom. Varen is a master of understatement. The king walked to a table near the hearth, where several objects lay spread across dark cloth. 17 years ago, the night before your mother was to become my father's queen, she vanished. That same night, a rival pack attacked our borders. They couldn't defeat us militarily, so they used blood magic instead. He picked up a small vial, dark liquid swirling inside. They cursed the royal bloodline. Every alpha born to Valdris would weaken with each passing year, their wolf fading, their body failing. My father lasted 8 years before the curse took him. I've lasted 9. He set down the vial. I have perhaps a year left. Maybe less. Carenza's throat tightened. And my mother's mark? The Luna line carries the only magic strong enough to break blood curses. Your mother was our salvation, and she ran. His voice held no accusation, only weariness. I don't blame her. She was 16, terrified, and the people who cursed us were hunting her specifically. But her flight left us with no hope. Until now. Until now. He held her gaze. Your name. Varen didn't tell me. Carenza. Carenza. He spoke it carefully, like he was memorizing the shape of it. I am Brennan, Alpha King of Valdris. And I am asking, not commanding, for your help. She approached the table drawn by the objects laid across it. A torn piece of fabric, a tarnished ring, a lock of dark hair tied with thread. What are these? Items connected to the curse, to the ones who cast it. Brennan watched her carefully. Your mother's gift wasn't just the mark. The Luna line could read objects, see the memories trapped within them. If you've inherited that ability, I have. The admission came easier than she expected. I've always been able to feel things when I touch them. My mother taught me to suppress it. Can you control it? Carenza reached for the ring without answering. The moment her fingers closed around the cold metal, the world dissolved. A chamber lit by black candles. A man in ceremonial robes, his face twisted with hatred. He's chanting in a language that hurts to hear, blood dripping from his palms onto a stone altar. Another man stands beside him, younger, watching with cold satisfaction. The Valdris wolves will rot from within. The robed man snarls. Their alphas will wither. Their line will end. And when they're weak enough, we'll take everything they have. The younger man smiles. And the Luna girl? Dead by dawn, my assassins are already... Carenza gasped, dropping the ring. Her knees buckled, but strong hands caught her before she hit the floor. Brennan. His arms were around her, steadying her, and despite his earlier promise not to touch her, she found herself grateful for the contact. His wolf's presence pressed against hers, warm and surprisingly gentle. What did you see? Two men, one casting the curse, one watching. She struggled to catch her breath. The one watching, he was younger. He said something about taking everything you have when you're weak enough. Brennan's expression hardened. Did you see his face? Dark hair, a scar through his left eyebrow, and his eyes were strange, almost golden. Varen cursed from the doorway. That's Lord Mathis. He sits on the King's Council. Brennan released Carenza slowly, his jaw tight. Mathis's family has served Valdris for generations. His father was my father's closest friend. His father might have been loyal, Carenza said, her voice steadier now. His son isn't. I saw it, Brennan. He was there when the curse was cast. He's been waiting 17 years for you to weaken. The fire crackled in the silence, and somewhere in the castle, a traitor walked freely among them. The next 3 days blurred together. Carenza read object after object, each vision draining her further but revealing more pieces of the puzzle. The curse had been cast by a blood mage named Corvin, long dead now, but his work lived on through anchors hidden throughout Valdris. Destroy the anchors, and the curse would break, but finding them required following a trail of memories that left Carenza shaking and hollow. Brennan was always there. He caught her when she stumbled, brought her water when her hands trembled too badly to hold a cup, gave her space when the visions overwhelmed her. He never pushed, never demanded more than she could give. And slowly, despite every wall she'd built, Carenza found herself trusting him. You should rest, he said on the third evening, finding her in the library where she'd gone to escape the pitying looks of servants. You've given us more in 3 days than 17 years of searching uncovered. I'm fine. You're exhausted. He settled into the chair across from her, firelight catching the hollows beneath his eyes. I know what it looks like when someone's running on fumes, Carenza. I see it in my mirror every morning. She looked at him properly then, past the crown and the title, and saw the truth of what the curse was doing to him. The slight tremor in his hands, the way he held himself carefully, conserving energy, the shadows that seemed to grow darker each day. How long do you really have? She asked quietly. Brennan was silent for a moment. The healers say a year. I think they're being optimistic. And if we break the curse? Then I might live to see 35. His smile was crooked, self-deprecating. Ambitious, I know. That's not funny. It's a little funny. He leaned back, studying her. You're different than I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone softer, maybe. Someone who'd flinch at the weight of all this. His gaze held hers. Instead, I got a woman who argues with commanders, insults courtly expectations, and reads cursed objects like she's daring them to break her. Before we continue, please take 2 seconds to like this video. Carenza felt heat rise to her cheeks. I'm just trying to survive. You're doing more than that. Brennan's voice dropped, rougher now. You're saving us. You're saving me. And I don't think you have any idea how remarkable that makes you. The air between them shifted, charged with something that had been building since the moment she'd first seen him descend from that throne. Carenza's wolf stirred, pressing toward him with an urgency that startled her. Brennan. I know. He closed his eyes briefly. I know I shouldn't feel this way. You've been here 3 days. You didn't ask for any of this, and I have no right to. Feel what way? His eyes opened, storm gray and burning. Like you're the first real thing I've felt in years. Like my wolf knows something I'm only beginning to understand. He laughed softly, humorlessly. Like I'd rather die breaking this curse than live another day knowing I sent you away. Carenza's pulse quickened, heat flooding her cheeks. She thought of every lesson her mother had taught her about powerful men and their pretty words, about how vulnerability could be a weapon, how charm could be a trap. She'd spent 17 years learning to guard herself against exactly this, but Brennan wasn't trying to manipulate her. She could see it in the way he held himself, tense and waiting, braced for rejection. He was handing her a blade and trusting her not to use it against him. My mother told me to stay hidden, she said softly. She said if they found me, they'd use me, that I'd never be free. She was right to be afraid. The world she fled was dangerous. Brennan's voice was gentle. But I'm not going to use you, Carenza. When this is over, when the curse is broken, whether that takes days or weeks, you can walk away. I'll give you gold, protection, safe passage anywhere you want to go. No obligations, no chains. And if I don't want to walk away? The question escaped before she could stop it. Brennan went very still. Then I would spend every day of whatever time I have left proving you made the right choice. Carenza rose from her chair, crossed the small space between them, and before her courage could fail her, she leaned down and pressed her lips to his. He responded instantly, one hand coming up to cradle the back of her head, the other gripping the arm of his chair like he was restraining himself from pulling her closer. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, and then deeper as she answered, her fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Brennan pressed his forehead to hers. I've been dying for 9 years, he murmured, and I've never once felt as alive as I do right now. Then stay alive. Her voice was fierce. Break this curse with me, and when it's done, ask me properly. Ask you what? To stay, to choose this, to choose you. His breath caught. And you'll consider it? I'll do more than consider it. She kissed him again, softer this time. But first, we have a traitor to catch and a curse to break. Brennan's laugh was rough with emotion. Always the practical one. Someone has to be. His thumb traced her cheekbone, reverent and wondering. You're going to destroy me, Carenza of the Luna line, and I'm going to let you. Lord Mathis made his move on the 5th night. Carenza had spent the day reading the remaining objects, saving the most difficult for last. She was reading the final object, a fragment of the original curse tablet, when the vision hit her harder than any before. Mathis in the castle corridors, speaking to a servant in hushed tones. The girl has seen too much. She knows about my family's involvement. She has to be eliminated before she reveals more. And the king? The king is dying anyway. Once the Luna Witch is dead, he'll have no hope left. Despair will finish what the curse started. Mathis smiles coldly. Tonight, the poison is already in her evening tea, By morning, this will all be over. Carenza tore herself from the vision with a gasp, knocking the tablet from the table. Her hands were shaking, her heart racing, and her wolf howling in warning. Brennan! He was beside her in an instant, concern carved into every line of his face. What is it? What did you see? Mathis knows. He knows I've uncovered his involvement. She gripped his arms, her fingers digging in. He's going to poison me tonight. He said the poison is already in my tea. Brennan's expression went cold and lethal in a way she'd never seen before. Varen! The commander appeared at the door immediately. My king? Find Lord Mathis, bring him to me in chains, and have every servant who's been near Carenza's chambers detained for questioning. At once. Varen disappeared. Brennan turned back to her, his hands framing her face. You're not drinking anything that doesn't come directly from my hand. You're not leaving my sight. Do you understand? Brennan, think about this. Carenza's mind was racing despite her fear. If you arrest Mathis now, you have my word against his. A borderland healer's apprentice accusing a high lord of treason. Half your council probably already thinks I've bewitched you. I don't care what they think. You should. You're their king. She forced herself to breathe, to think. We need to catch him in the act. Let him believe his plan is working. Draw him out and get him to confess where his allies are, where the curse anchors are hidden. You want to use yourself as bait. His voice was flat with controlled fury. I want to end this. All of it. Tonight. And if something goes wrong, if the poison reaches you before we can stop it, then you'll save me. She held his gaze. I trust you, Brennan. Something cracked behind his eyes. You shouldn't. I'm not fast enough. Not strong enough. The curse has taken too much. You're strong enough. She kissed him, brief and fierce. You've been holding this kingdom together through sheer will for 9 years. You can hold on one more night. Brennan pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from everything with his body alone. If he hurts you, I'll tear him apart with my bare hands. Curse or no curse, dying or not, I will end him. I know you will. That's why I'm not afraid. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. She was terrified. But she was also her mother's daughter, and Lysara had faced worse than poison to protect the people she loved. I understand now, Mama, she thought. Why you ran. Why you hid. You weren't a coward. You were buying time for something worth fighting for. They planned quickly. Carenza would return to her chambers and pretend to drink the poisoned tea. Varen's men would be hidden nearby, ready to move the moment Mathis revealed himself. Brennan would stay close, closer than protocol allowed, because nothing short of death would keep him away. One more thing, Brennan said as she prepared to leave. He pulled a ring from his smallest finger, silver set with a moonstone that seemed to glow with inner light. This was your mother's. She left it behind the night she fled. He pressed it into Carenza's palm. She would have wanted you to have it. Carenza's eyes burned. The ring was warm against her skin, thrumming with memories she'd explore later, when there was time, when she wasn't walking toward a trap of her own making. I'll give it back, she said, when this is over. Keep it. Brennan's voice was rough. Keep it and come back to me. That's all I ask. She slipped the ring onto her finger and walked into the darkness. Carenza's chambers felt different in the darkness. Every shadow held menace. Every creak of the floorboards made her wolf bristle. The tea sat on her bedside table, innocent-looking, steam still curling from its surface. She'd watched the servant pour it, had seen the slight tremble in the girl's hands, the way her eyes had darted to the door. Now she sat on the edge of her bed, the cup cradled in her palms, and waited. The door opened without a knock. Lord Mathis entered like he owned the castle, his golden eyes sweeping the room before settling on her with cold satisfaction. He was tall, sharp-featured, with a scar through his eyebrow that she'd seen in her vision. Up close, he radiated the kind of cruelty that came from generations of believing oneself untouchable. Lady Carenza. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I heard you weren't feeling well. I came to check on our honored guest. How thoughtful. She kept her voice steady. The healers brought tea. Did they? His gaze flicked to the cup. You should drink it. Tea is wonderful for settling nerves. I was just about to. She raised the cup to her lips. Mathis watched with barely concealed eagerness, his body leaning forward almost imperceptibly. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. 17 years of planning, and it all came down to a single sip. Carenza lowered the cup without drinking. There's something I've been wondering, she said conversationally. When you watched Corvin cast the curse, did you know it would take this long? Or did you expect the Valdris line to fall faster? Mattis's expression flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. I saw you. Carenza set the cup aside. In the vision. You were standing beside the blood mage, smiling while he condemned an entire bloodline to slow death. You called it, taking everything they have? The mask of civility cracked. You shouldn't have seen that. And yet I did. She stood slowly. Just like I saw you ordering my death tonight. The poison in the tea. The plan to let despair finish what the curse started. Mathis moved fast, drawing a knife from his sleeve. Then you know too much to leave this room alive. I was counting on that. The door burst open. Varen and 6 warriors flooded into the chamber, swords drawn. Brennan came behind them, moving slower but with deadly intent burning in his eyes. Mathis spun, knife still raised, and found himself surrounded. Lord Mathis. Brennan's voice was ice. You stand accused of treason, conspiracy to murder, and crimes against the crown. Drop your weapon. You're dying anyway, boy. Mathis's composure shattered into something ugly. Your father was weak, and you're weaker. The curse will finish you within the year. And then what? Your kingdom falls to chaos while you rot in the ground. Maybe. Brennan stepped closer, unflinching despite the knife. But I'll rot knowing I stopped you first. Mathis lunged. Not at Brennan, but at Carenza, the knife arcing toward her throat in a desperate final strike. If he couldn't escape, he'd take her with him. Time seemed to slow. Carenza saw the blade coming, saw Brennan's face contort with horror, saw Varen moving too slowly to intercept. Her wolf surged forward with instincts she didn't know she possessed. She caught Mattis's wrist. The contact sent a vision slamming through her, involuntary and overwhelming. But this time, she didn't fight it. She let the power flow backward, pouring every memory she'd gathered into him, the curse being cast, his complicity witnessed, his plans exposed, all of it flooding his mind in a torrent of undeniable truth. Mathis screamed. He dropped the knife, clutching his head, and crumpled to the floor. When he looked up, his golden eyes were wild with terror. What did you do to me? I showed you what I see. Carenza's voice was steady despite her shaking hands. Every secret, every sin, all of it, living in your head now, the way it's been living in mine. Brennan was beside her instantly, his arm wrapping around her waist, steadying her. Are you hurt? No. She leaned into him. But he will be, for the rest of his miserable life. Varen hauled Mattis to his feet. Where are the curse anchors? Tell us, and the king might show mercy. Mattis laughed, broken and bitter. You think I'm the only one? My family has been working toward this for generations. Even if you break the curse, there are others who'll... Let them come. Brennan's voice cut through like a blade. I'll face them all. But first, he nodded to Varen. Take him to the dungeons. We'll get the anchor locations from him one way or another. As the warriors dragged Mathis away, Carenza sagged against Brennan's chest. You caught his wrist, he murmured into her hair. I've never seen anyone move that fast. I didn't think. I just acted. Your wolf. He pulled back to look at her, wonder in his expression. It's not muted anymore, is it? Carenza felt it then, truly felt it for the first time in her life. Her wolf, no longer caged, no longer hidden, but fully awake and thrumming with power she'd never known she possessed. No, she breathed. It's not. Brennan smiled, genuine and warm despite the chaos around them. Welcome home, little wolf. They found the curse anchors within 2 days. Mathis broke under questioning, revealing 5 locations scattered throughout Valdris where blood magic had been bound to stone and bone. Varen led teams to destroy each one while Carenza guided them through visions, pinpointing exactly where the dark artifacts were hidden. When the last anchor shattered, Brennan gasped. Carenza was beside him in the war room when it happened. She watched the color flood back into his face, watched his hands steady, and watched him straighten like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. It worked. Kale breathed from across the table. Luna's mercy. It actually worked. Brennan looked at his hands, turning them over like he was seeing them for the first time. Then he looked at Carenza, and the emotion in his eyes made her heart stutter. You did this, he said softly. You saved me. Saved all of us. We did it together. No. He crossed to her, cupping her face in hands that no longer trembled. I've been searching for 17 years, sent hundreds of scouts, spent fortunes on trackers and mages, and found nothing. You've been here 8 days, and you broke an unbreakable curse. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You're extraordinary, Carenza. I'm just a healer's apprentice. You're the woman I love. The words hung in the air between them. Carenza felt the air leave her lungs. Brennan. I know it's too soon. I know I promised you could walk away. And I meant it. You can have gold, safe passage, anything you want. His voice roughened. But I need you to know that these 8 days have been the best of my life. Not because you saved me, but because you challenged me, laughed at me, kissed me like I was worth something more than a dying crown. Tears burned her eyes. You are worth more than that. Then stay. The word was a prayer. Not because of duty or destiny or any of the reasons the court will whisper about. Stay because you want to. Because this, he pressed her palm to his chest, where his heart beat strong and steady. Feels like home to you, the way it does to me. Carenza thought about the life she'd left behind. The healer's cottage, the grinding herbs, the crushing weight of merely existing. She thought about her mother's warnings, all those years of hiding all that fear. And she thought about how none of it had prepared her for this. A king who asked instead of demanded, who offered freedom in the same breath as forever, who looked at her like she'd hung the stars. My mother ran from this place, she said slowly. She spent her whole life hiding, protecting me from a destiny she thought would destroy me. Brennan's expression tightened with pain. I understand. If you need to go, let me finish. She smiled through her tears. She ran because she was 16 and terrified and alone. But I'm not 16. I'm not alone. And I'm done being terrified of something this beautiful. Hope flickered in his eyes. Carenza, I'm staying. She rose on her toes and kissed him, soft and certain. I'm choosing you, Brennan of Valdris, today and tomorrow, and every day you'll have me. He made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob, crushing her against him, burying his face in her hair. I'll have you forever if you'll let me. Forever sounds like a good start. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were wet, but his smile was radiant. Marry me. Is that a command, Your Majesty? It's a plea. He dropped to one knee right there in the war room, surrounded by maps and candles and the remnants of a broken curse. Carenza, daughter of Lysara, will you be my queen? My partner? My mate? She looked down at this man who had every reason to be hard and cold, who had watched his family die and his body fail and his kingdom suffer, and who somehow still knew how to hope. Yes. The word came out fierce. Yes to all of it. Brennan surged to his feet and kissed her breathless, lifting her off the ground, spinning her in a circle while she laughed against his mouth. From the doorway, Varn's voice drifted in. "Should I inform the council, or would you like a moment?" "Give us an hour," Brennan called back without breaking the kiss. "Maybe two." Carenza heard Kale's delighted whoop somewhere in the corridor. And wrapped in Brennan's arms, her wolf singing in harmony with his, she finally understood what her mother had been protecting all along. Not a curse, not a burden. A chance at something extraordinary. The bonding ceremony took place under the first full moon of spring. The entire kingdom gathered in the great courtyard, torches blazing against the night, as Carenza walked toward the man who had become her whole world. She wore silver silk that seemed to glow in the moonlight, her mother's ring on her finger, the Luna mark visible through the open back of her gown for all to see. Brennan waited at the altar, dressed in the deep blue of Valdris royalty, looking healthier and stronger than anyone had seen him in years. When his eyes found hers, everything else faded away. The high priestess spoke the ancient words, binding wolf to wolf, soul to soul. Carenza and Brennan exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises of partnership and choice and love freely given. "I spent my life hiding," Carenza said, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "Afraid of what I was, of what I could do. You showed me that my gift wasn't something to fear. You gave me a home. You gave me a pack. You gave me you." She smiled through tears. "I choose you, Brennan. Every day, in every way, for the rest of our lives." Brennan's voice was rough with emotion. "I was dying when you found me, not just from the curse, but from years of carrying a weight I thought I'd bear alone. You didn't just save my life, Carenza. You reminded me it was worth living." He took her hands. "I choose you, not as my salvation or my healer, but as my equal, my partner, my heart." When they kissed, the crowd erupted in cheers. The celebration lasted until dawn. There was music and dancing and enough wine to fill the mountain rivers. Kale gave a toast so heartfelt that even Varen wiped his eyes. And through it all, Brennan kept Carenza close, his hand in hers, his wolf pressed warmly against her own. Later, in the quiet of their chambers, he traced the mark on her shoulder blade. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Varen hadn't found you?" "Sometimes." She turned in his arms. "I'd still be grinding herbs, hiding from a destiny I didn't understand. And I'd be dead within the year. But that's not what happened." She kissed the corner of his mouth. "You sent warriors into a tiny borderland village, and one of them knocked on a healer's door and everything changed." Brennan smiled. "Best decision I ever made? Second best." She grinned. "The first was not running when I admitted my mother had that mark." He laughed, pulling her closer. "The warriors went silent because they knew. Even then, they knew you were the answer to everything." Carenza thought about her mother, about the years of fear and hiding, about the stories whispered in the dark. Lysara had run to protect her daughter from a world she thought would consume her, but she'd also left clues, pressed herbs, whispered truths, a mark that refused to stay hidden forever. "You wanted me to find them, Mama," she thought, "when I was ready, when I was strong enough. You knew I'd come home." Outside, the sun rose over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. A new day, a new beginning. Carenza pressed closer to her mate, her king, her home. "I whispered 3 words in a healer's cottage," she murmured against his chest, "and ended up with forever." Brennan kissed the top of her head. "Best trade I've ever heard of." She smiled, content and whole, and finally free. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. And if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people hear these stories.